Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be addressing our weekly Korean topic, and today's topic I wanted to go over, which I noticed there were a few issues that some of my students were having, and this was in regards to transportation and specifically taxis. The reason being is because taxis are the most, I guess, quick way of traveling, but it's also in some ways I think the most inconvenient, especially for individuals that don't speak Korean. So just thought I'd just kind of expand a little bit on the topic, not only just specifically related to taxis, but other types of transportation that are helpful and things that are associated to it that might be helpful when maybe you guys travel to Korea. So let's get into taxis. So taxis, there are essentially about 5 different types of taxis that can be used. I mean, actually essentially 6, but no, correct information would be 7. So if you are in Korea and you're just gonna get out there and do your thing, the fastest thing would be to purchase what you call a T-money card, which is their version of saying transportation card. And if you are in California or Los Angeles, we would know it as the Metro card. But the difference between the Metro card in LA would be, or maybe a Metro card in other places, this particular card can be used in a lot of different transportation in Korea and in different cities. So essentially, the ones that you find in the local areas or the local city area is usually the standard taxi, which is, most cities should be orange, like the color of the taxi itself. And the issue with the taxis a lot of the time that people have had is, number one, communication, like the hugest thing. Because of the fact that majority of the taxi drivers will not be fluent in English, and it's very difficult to actually utilize them if you're not Korean speaking. And so a lot of the time those individuals who try to, or maybe have practice like the phrase for Korean taxis for assistance, sometimes they'll have their city names written down or memorized, like typical phrases as in please go to this city, or please go to this particular landmark or location. And those are phrases that are the easiest to get through to. And so that is probably the hugest issue that people are having, is communication. And also because some taxi drivers, because they know they can't communicate, a lot of them, as soon as they see you and they know that you're not Korean, some of my students had the issue where they will pass by them and not pick them up. And so that will be an issue that you might come across. And in those cases, unfortunately, it's just not ideal, and it's not great as somebody who is Korean. I guess for me, it's like I feel very bad and also at the same time very embarrassed, in the sense of that's how Korean individuals are. So I apologize in advance if that ever happens to you. In that regard, for us, particularly when we were in Korea, especially in Seoul, taxis were just everywhere. So there wasn't really an issue hailing a taxi or getting to the location we needed, because I spoke Korean and it was a lot easier. The one thing I found in doing some research about this is that some people, they're able to reserve an international taxi, which usually pick you up at the airport and possibly can maybe drop you off in between like certain areas if you have a certain place that you need to go to. And usually those are flat rate fees, especially if you are going within the 5 zones of Seoul. Now, if you're going to another city, I believe that probably costs a little more and it's more metered, but majority within Seoul, I believe it is a flat rate fee. So if you are just not sure and you would like someone who spoke English, then I believe you can reserve that online, and I can definitely give you guys a link in the description below just to check that out if Korea is your destination anytime soon. Again, if you're going to go by taxi and you have the information of where you want to go, and sometimes the name written down and maybe a map of the location, that really helps. And also landmarks. Landmarks are huge, especially in Seoul. If you know the landmark that's next to the location you're trying to get to, that would really help. And also, if you are in the midst of learning and you're able to learn this phrase, the phrase to ask in regards to, can we go by GPS? So like giving them the address, that type of thing. So you can try to request that. And so going from that, if you feel like taxi is just not your thing and you'd rather just avoid all of that, then there are essentially 3 other ways to be traveling. 2 of them are inner city and maybe just more like a few cities, like outskirts cities kind of thing, is the easiest to travel that way. And then others would be more like long distance if you want to try that. So second one is subway. Subway is the next most popular way to travel. Subway is a lot easier. You just have to kind of know your way around. When I was there, I would just use the map, especially in Seoul. And it was just a lot easier because you just match the name to the location. And a lot of the time, the map of the subway system of where they're getting off is inside the subway, very similar to like New York and the other subway systems in America, where they kind of light up maybe, or they say what, station they're coming to next. So that's helpful. And again, that one is also, you can use the transportation card, which they call the T-money card. Last one is bus, and bus will be a lot more, I guess it's fun, but it's more accessible. The reason being is that subways is accessible and nice and it's quick, but at the same time, sometimes the subway system can be very, very crowded and can be a little rough, especially during rush hour, depending on what time you guys are traveling or getting out to do stuff and sightseeing and certain things like that. So there's that. So there's 3 different kinds. One is the generic city buses, there's the inner city buses, and then there's express buses. Express buses usually take you, it's just like one destination. So express buses are usually like one destination and they don't make very many stops. And then inner city buses, self-explanatory. And then the city buses, they kind of break down to color. So in Korea, most popular ones that you see within Seoul is like the yellow colored ones. Yellow or blue, I believe. And the reason being is that yellow is more, there's like a locked kind of like circuit that they do, and so that's kind of the one that you would see most often. And then the blue one is usually they go long distance and they don't make as many stops. And then there's a green one. I apologize. So there's a green one which makes more stops than the blue one does, but it does go the same directions. And then the ones that usually take you to more other suburban cities would be the red buses, which is a type of express bus. And I personally took the express bus when we were in Seoul, we were in Seoul and we were going to visit my relatives. And, technically if you had a car, it would take like about 40 minutes. But by bus, this took over an hour. And so just keep that in mind. But it wasn't a bad ride. And then also there's one that's the night bus. And the night bus is really, I guess, popular among young people or people who are studying, especially high school students who are studying like really late at night, because they run from about 11:30 at night to like 6 in the morning. And so reason being why it's so common for them is because students in Korea, they study really late at night until maybe like midnight sometimes or 11 something. and some of them will take the midnight bus or the night bus home. And then there are people who are, late night shifts, or people who are touring are tourists, sorry, and they just need to get home, and night bus is the only one that runs late at night like that. So the only thing is that you have to keep in mind all those buses or different types of buses they cost differently. So even if you have your transportation card and you fill it up a certain amount, like each bus will have a different type of fee. So you just have to keep that in mind, and it's not just a straight flat fee for, okay, the bus is this much. So keep that in mind. Like when you take the bus systems, that's really important. And you can use the transportation card, which they call the T-Money card. And there's another one called Cash B. That one is not as versatile as the T-Money card because I noticed that there was some restrictions on that one. But T-Money card in general, I feel like is more widely accepted. So taxi, subway, or bus, you can use T-Money or cash, which is like the generic. And then taxi and subways, taxis you can pay with credit card. And then subways you can pay with credit card as well. And then the next one is the one I feel like everyone should experience, which is the train. So in the train in Korea, there's one that's really known is KTX, which is at the time when it was built is a high-speed train. Now they've come out since then with another train system called the ITX. So the KTX was around since 2004, I believe, and then ITX came out, it was around 2014. So it's been a bit for those two, but ITX is it's claimed to be a little bit faster. We particularly took the KTX while we were there. And then there's like the old-fashioned one, which is, I believe it's called Mugunghwa, which is the name of the Korean national flower. But that was a train system that's much older. And then I believe there's one more system, which is called the SRT. That one is a train system that starts from a different city than Seoul. And so that's also something else to keep in mind as well. There are multiple rail lines in Korea, and they have different names depending on where they begin or where they end. And so sometimes in trains, you can't use the T-Money card. But what you can get is railroad pass. So you can have like one for like a 2-day pass or a 3-day pass or a flexible whatever number 4-day pass, something like that. And so if you want to take any of those trains and you're like, I'm going to be traveling like farther and just want to get there quickly, stuff like that, then I think a railroad pass would be worth it. And those are much more expensive than a typical transportation pass. And so you would have to buy that separately at the train station, or you can buy it online as well. And I'll try to put that link below too. With that in mind, so we have taxi, bus, subway, and train. So you will not ever be without any type of transportations other than your walking feet to any of these places. Unless you rent a car and you get an international driver's license, then there's a possibility you can rent a car and drive everywhere. So if you are courageous enough to drive in Korea, by all means, try that. The one last form of transportation that it's for people, I feel like, that want to travel to other countries like China and Japan, which is like the neighboring countries, or to Jeju-do, would be the ferry. So there's an international ferry terminal, and then there's the terminal for the ferry boat to Jeju-do. That's another option if you would like to kind of like head over to Japan or head over to, China, if in their port as well. So just keep that in mind. And another way is for us, like I mentioned, Jeju-do and Busan, I believe there's another, I think Mokpo, which is another city. There's a ferry that's connected to those two cities, but you can also go by plane. So my husband and I took a small plane from Gimpo Airport, not Incheon, but Gimpo Airport. and to Jeju-do and back. And so that was a lot easier, I believe, to just kind of transport ourselves because we didn't have much time. So, and we bought the tickets prior to actually going to Korea. So all of these things that I'm talking about, you can buy tickets prior. You do not have to wait till you get there to buy these tickets, because sometimes it's a lot easier if you already have them in your hand and that you know like this thing, this time, and you just set the dates that you want to get there by. Anyway, if any of this has helped you, or if you have any comments or updates in regards to this type of topic, transportation in Korea, let me know. Leave a comment below. 그리고 이제 한국에 사시는 분들에게 이제 업데이트된 정보가 있으시면은 그러면 밑에다 코멘트를 남겨주시면 감사하겠습니다. And hopefully, if you find this information helpful, or if you'd like to just conversate or just comment in general, just please go ahead. And I love to read comments and love to interact. So hopefully next time I will see you with another awesome topic related to Korea. All right, see you later. Bye.